ॐ ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरून् श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे. Okay, so we will continue with the reading of Srimad Bhagavatam from 7th chapter of 3rd canto, sloka number 12. Savai nivrati dharmena vasudevanukampaya bhagavat bhakti yogena triyo datte shanairiha. But the misconceptions of self-identity can be diminished gradually by the mercy of the personality of Godhead, Vasudev, through the process of devotional service to the Lord in the mode of detachment. Purport. The quivering quality of material existence, which comes from identification with matter or from thinking oneself under the material influence of philosophical speculation to be God, can be eradicated by devotional service to the Lord by the mercy of the personality of Godhead Vasudeva. So now this is addressing to that moon's reflection in the water. The moon's reflection in the water is quivering, so that is the same thing is dealt with now. So the quivering quality of material existence, which come from identification with matter or from thinking oneself as God, can be eradicated by devotional service to the Lord by the mercy of personality of Godhead Vasudeva. As discussed in the first canto, because the application of devotional service to Lord Vasudev invites pure knowledge, it quickly detaches one from the material conception of life and thus revives one's normal condition of spiritual existence even in this life and frees one from material winds which cause one to quiver. So this in the first canto, this is very nice sloka. I think in the second chapter of first canto it is there. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitah Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yadahaitukam. So in the first canto, this is described how devotional service to the Supreme Lord invites knowledge, and it when once the knowledge comes in, then immediately it quickly detaches one from the material conception of life, and no amount of material ups and downs can no disturb a person who's thoroughly situated like that. So only knowledge and devotional service can elevate one towards path of liberation. The development of knowledge for the purpose of knowing everything without rendering devotional service is considered fruitless labor, and one cannot get the desired result by such labor of love. So this is nicely again explained in the second chapter of first canto. Second chapter of first canto is a mine of wonderful sutras, which is that just we can just simply have explained the whole Bhagavatam with the second chapter of the first canto. It's really, really very amazing, this one. So even this is also like the Shramayeva hi Kevalam. So that Shloka Prabhupada is actually writing, here. So if somebody is like endeavoring to attain knowledge, happiness, or anything without rendering service to the Supreme Lord, so then it is a hard labor only, and it doesn't no, it doesn't bear any fruit. So Lord Vasudev is pleased by devotional service only, and thus his mercy is realized by association with pure devotees of the Lord. Pure devotees of the Lord are transcendental to all material desires, including the desire for the result of fruitive activities and philosophical speculation. If one wants to acquire the mercy of the Lord, he has to associate with pure devotees. Such association alone can, by degrees, release one from the quivering element. So, this anyway, we were tracing it some time back. So wherever there is pure devotional service comes, immediately there is this negation of fruitive activity and philosophical speculation. That means doing any activity thinking that I will enjoy the results of it, or getting into philosophical speculation where one tries to become one tries to put forward his own philosophy. Philosophy needs to be given by the Lord, no, not by us. So we cannot make our own philosophy. So philosophy means it is given by the Lord. So like if any, this is jnana and karma, jnana karma adi anavritam. So karma means it is desire for enjoying the fruits, and jnana means desire for liberation or desire for becoming God. So these has to be like a person has to be free from these two. So then only he can practice pure devotional service. Okay, so text 13. यदिन्द्रियो पराम रामोऽथ दृष्टा दृष्ट्रात्मनि परेहरो विलीयन्ते तदा क्लेशाः सं सं संसुप्तस्येव कृत्स्नः कृत्स्नशः. Okay. When the senses are satisfied in the seer, that is super soul, the personality of Godhead, and merge in him, all miseries are completely vanquished as after a sound sleep. So merge in him means like it's in the thought, not in physically merging. So that is already overruled, already ruled over by many arguments and statements in Bhagavatam. So we never become one with the Lord, and we can only become merged in him by the thoughts, by activities. Okay. So the quivering of living entity as described above is due to the senses. Since the entire material existence is meant for sense gratification, the senses are the medium of material activities, and they cause the quivering of the steady soul. Therefore, the senses are to be detached from all such material activities. According to the impersonalist, the senses are stopped from work by merging the soul into the super soul Brahman. The devotees, however, do not stop the material senses from acting, but they engage their transcendental senses in the service of transcendence, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In either case, the activities of the senses in the material field are to be stopped by cultivation of knowledge, and if possible, they can be engaged in the service of the Lord. The senses are transcendental in nature, but their activities become polluted when contaminated by matter. We have to treat the senses to cure them of material disease, not stop them from acting as suggested by the impersonalists. So this impersonalists, they say that it's like an example that is given is if your hand is paining, or if you move your hand it is paining, then don't move your hand, just keep it quiet, keep it in one place. And then is it solving the problem? Are you feeling any pain? No, then we say no. So then this is the solution, like you just don't move, you just be there like that, and no, you are not having any pain. So this is the impersonalist idea. And the devotees of the Lord, they cure the disease and they use the hand for useful things, right? So that is the difference between the impersonalist philosophy and the devotional philosophy. In Bhagavad Gita 259, it is said that one ceases all material activities only when satisfied by contact with a better engagement. Uh, Consciousness is active by nature and cannot be stopped from working. Artificially stopping a mischievous child is not the real remedy. The child must be given some better engagement so that he will automatically stop causing mischief. In the same way, the mischievous activities of the senses can be stopped only by better engagement in relation with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When the eyes are engaged in seeing the beautiful form of the Lord, the tongue engaged in tasting prasadam or remnants of footsteps offered to the Lord, the ears engaged in hearing the glories, the hands engaged in cleansing the temple of the Lord, the legs engaged in visiting his temples, or when all these senses are engaged in transcendental variegatedness, then only can the transcendental senses become satiated and eternally free from material engagement. So this is Prabhupada is citing from the Ambarish Maharaj pastimes, where Amrish Maharaj is fully utilizing his all his senses in the service of the Lord. Savai Manah Krishna Padara Vindayor Vacham Shivaikunta Gunanu Varnane Karau Harer Mandira Marjanadishu Shutim Chakara Achyuta Satkatodaye Mukunda Lingalaya Darshane Drishav Tadbritya Gatras Parasanga Sangame Granam Chatatpada Saroja Saurabe Srimat Tulasye Rasanam Tadarpite. Like that, it goes where all these aspects, what he is mentioning, the legs engaged in visiting the temple, the hands engaged in cleaning the temple, and the tongue engaged in tasting the prasadam and glorifying the Lord, and ears engaged in hearing the Lord, hearing about the Lord's glorious activities. So these are all the ways in which like all the senses can be engaged, and a better engagement is offered to the senses, so that they will not get engaged in lower things, right? So the Lord as the super soul, residing in everyone's heart as the supreme personality of Godhead in the transcendental world, far beyond the material creation, is the seer of all our activities. So it's a very, very nice statement Prabhupada is making. The Lord as super soul, residing in everyone's heart, and as the supreme personality of Godhead in the transcendental world, far beyond the material creation. So it is like he is there in our heart, but at the same time he is not there in the material world. No, he is existing in a spiritual position. Though he is there sitting next to us, he is never contaminated by matter. He is completely existing on the spiritual position, and he is also the seer of our activities. Upadrishta, Hanumanta Upadrishta, Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita. Our activities must be so transcendently situated that the Lord will be kind enough to look upon us favorably and engage us in his transcendental service. Then only can the senses be satisfied completely and be no longer troubled by material attraction. So it's nice, this one. Our activities should be so transcendently saturated, so that is, we are trying, or we are aiming to please the Supreme Lord, and our desire to please him is actually attracting him. So then if the Lord is attracted by our desire to please him, so then the Lord will be kind enough to look upon us favorably. And if that means, like, we will get the mercy of the Lord. And if we get the mercy of the Lord, then we get an opportunity to engage in his transcendental service, and then the senses will become completely satisfied, right? So when we engage in the service of the Lord, then we will become completely satisfied. Okay, Ashesha Sanklesha Samam Vidatte Gunanuvada Shravanam Murare Kimva Punastacharana Ravinda Paraga Seva Ratiratma Labda. Simply by chanting and hearing of the transcendental name, form, etc. of the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, one can achieve the cessation of unlimited miserable conditions. Therefore, what to speak of those who have attained attraction for serving the flavor of the dust of the Lord's lotus feet? Let's read the translation again. Amazing translation. Simply by chanting and hearing of the transcendental name, form, etc. of the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna, one can achieve the cessation of unlimited miserable conditions. That's what we are exactly doing every day. So we are trying to chant and hear about the transcendental name, form, and pastimes of the Lord. And that is the way to attain complete cessation of unlimited miserable conditions, right? And therefore, what to speak of those who have attained attraction for serving the flavor of the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord? So that means, like, just by hearing about him, so much of this one is there. And if somebody is like hearing and convinced, and then he is engaged in the service of the Lord, oh, for him, though, it's like really amazing. So amazing this position is. Okay, purport. Two different methods for controlling the material senses are recommended in the Vedic scriptural wisdom. One of them is the process of jnana, or the path of philosophical understanding of the Supreme, that is Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. The other is that direct engagement in transcendental devotional service of the Lord. So, of these two most popular methods, the path of devotional service is recommended here as the best, because one on the path of devotional service does not have to wait for the attainment of the fruitive results of pious activities or for the result of knowledge. Hmm. So, as we had mentioned, that bhakti produces everything, it doesn't require any external support. But jnana yoga, it requires an external support. Until unless a person purifies his consciousness by performing karma yoga, so he cannot enter into the process of jnana yoga. So jnana yoga means first step is sannyas. After sannyas, only a person can proceed with jnana yoga. It is not possible that he is engaged in material activities and then still he's engaged in maintaining a family, and he's engaged in so many different activities, and he's trying for jnana yoga. It's not possible. It's not at all possible. It's not the starting point at all. So a person has to do karma yoga only. But then for bhakti yoga, it doesn't require any support structure. It can stand on its own, and rather all that is needed for progress in bhakti can be produced by bhakti. So this Banu Maharaj very nicely explains that no bhakti, like there is no cause for bhakti. Bhakti is ahaituki. Bhakti cannot be produced by anything. Bhakti is produced by bhakti only. So that is why if a person has to become a devotee, he needs to have the touch of a devotee. Without touch of a devotee, devotion cannot come in anyone's heart. So that is why Lord often sends the pure devotees from the Vaikuntha, from the spiritual world. So because only if they come and walk in the material world, they can actually inspire bhakti in people's heart. So bhakti cannot be produced by any combination of material activities or any combination of punya. Any amount of punya cannot give rise to bhakti. If somebody is doing a lot of philanthropic work, digging wells, establishing free schools, and so many things they may do, but that cannot produce bhakti. Bhakti requires a bhakta. No, bhakti requires bhakti produced from bhakti only, and bhakti cannot be produced from any other source. So, in that way, like bhakti's source is not there. No, it has like no other exterior source is there. So, bhakti is produced from bhakti, and there is whatever other things are needed. No, knowledge is needed. No, that bhakti only gives. Detachment is needed, that bhakti only gives. Any good or bad, no, whatever is needed, everything bhakti gives. So a person who's embraced the path of bhakti yoga, he doesn't need to go for any other any other support structures. Any other thing is not needed. So he just bhakti itself produces everything. Okay, so the two stages of executing devotional service are: first, the stage of practicing devotional service with our present senses under the regulation of recognized scriptures, and second, attaining sincere attachment for serving the particles of dust of the lotus feet of the Lord. So this is okay. The first stage is called sadhana bhakti, or devotional service for the neophyte, which is rendered under the direction of pure devotee. And the second stage is called raga bhakti, in which the mature devotee automatically takes to the various services of the Lord out of sincere attachment. So here Prabhupada is talking about a very, very high principle. So when we are doing sadhana bhakti means it is meant to take us from Adav Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivriti, then Anartha Nishta, Ashakti, Ruchi, Bhava, and Prema. So these are all the different stages that we have to cross. Just like when we go and get admitted in a school, we have to clear the first standard, second standard, third standard. In the same way, in Bhakti also we have these standards. And no, it's not just we cannot pass by cheating. It's completely internal, and it is completely our internal journey towards the Lord. And at every stage there are different challenges that will be there, and the devotee has to pass through those challenges and then come to the stage of prema bhakti. So that is the success of sadhana bhakti. So then after that, after we attain prema bhakti, then what starts is raga. So that is like completely a high stage of devotional service. And this raga bhakti can be attained only by serving a rahatmika bhakta. So that means That means a person or a devotee from the personal entourage of the Lord, no, like personal associates of the Lord. So, no, the sadhana bhakti can be guided by anyone, no, who is little advanced, but then the raga bhakti requires the guidance of the eternal associates of the Lord, no, like Mother Yashoda, no, the other gopis of Vrindavan, Nanda Maharaj, like that. No, they're all eternal associates of the Lord. No, nobody can become like them. Nobody can replace Nanda Maharaj. No, there is only one father to Krishna, and he'll be the only one. So, but then, no, we can become the servants of these great devotees, who are ragatmika bhaktas, who are permanently fixed devotees of the Lord, and we can actually become, one of the followers of them. So that raga bhakti is possible after we attain perfection in the sadhana bhakti, right? So we have to come to the stage of prema bhakti. So here we see that this devotional service is of two kinds. No, one is sadhana bhakti, and then this second is raha. So it is not raha nuga; that's a different thing. This is raha bhakti. So this is this particular aspect of following the, as it is mentioned in the neophyte stage, under the regulated guidance and things like that. So a person has to do the devotional service. So, like why? Because the senses are naturally tuned for sense gratification, and we are trying to do devotional service, using these senses. And if we want to do devotional service, no, naturally I cannot do because I'm tuned for something else. So then I have to follow the scriptures, and I have to follow the regulation of the scriptures. And by following the regulation of the scriptures over a period of time, I become completely surcharged with devotional service. As Prabhupada mentions, that iron rod kept on fire acquires the property of fire. So, in the same way, the materially contaminated senses constantly kept in the devotional service acquires the properties of devotional service. No, so then it becomes very, very pure. So that's the perfection of sadhana bhakti, right? And once we attain the perfection, then we will naturally get the taste of serving the lotus feet of the Lord. And here it's mentioned the serving the dust particles that are there at the lotus feet of the Lord. So that means basically like anything that is connected to the Lord, a devotee wants to serve that thing. No, he is not even trying to serve the Lord personally. He just wants to serve anyone who is dear to the Lord. Okay. So we had, in which the mature devotee automatically takes to various services. The great sage Maitreya now gives the final answer to all questions of Vidura. Devotional service to the Lord is the ultimate means to mitigate all the miserable conditions of material existence. The path of knowledge or that of mystic gymnasticism may be adopted as a means for the purpose, but unless mixed with bhakti or devotional service, they are unable to award desired result. So that means jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, all these other forms of yoga, even if they have to give some results, they need to have the touch of bhakti. Otherwise, they cannot give their results also. So bhakti can produce its results without any support of anything else. But other yoga systems require the support of bhakti to produce some results. So by practicing sadhana bhakti, one may gradually rise to the point of raga bhakti, and by performing raga bhakti in loving transcendental service, one can even control the supreme powerful Lord. So that we see that in Damodar Leela, how the Lord is bound by Mother Yashoda. Lord is controlled. The Lord of the entire creation, the like everything is there under His control. Even the material nature is there under His control. Spiritual nature is there under His control. Nothing is beyond Him. No asama urdhva. No, He is that personality who's nobody is equal to Him. Nobody is above Him, and such a person becomes controlled by the performance of raga bhakti, right? So that's the ultimate thing, that is a devotee can achieve. Okay, text 15. Vidura uvacha sanchinna samshayo mahyam tava sutashina vibo ubay ubayatrapi bhagavan mano me sampradavati. Vidura said, O powerful sage, My Lord, all my doubts about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entities have now been removed by your convincing words. My mind is now perfectly entering into them. Hmm? So, purport. The science of Krishna or the science of God and living entities is so subtle that even a personality like Vidura has to consult persons like the sage Maitreya. No, we can know like Vidura is a great devotee of the Lord, and then he was a personal associate of the Lord. So here it is seen that even a person of that stature also requires consultation, also requires counseling. Doubts about the eternal relationship of the Lord and the living entity are created by mental speculators in different ways, but the conclusive fact is that the relationship of God and the living entity is one of the predominator and the predominated. The Lord is the eternal predominator, and the living entities are eternally predominated. Real knowledge of this relationship entails reviving the lost consciousness to this standard, and the process for such revival is devotional service to the Lord. By clearly understanding from authorities like Sage Maitreya, one can become situated in real knowledge, and the disturbed mind can thus be fixed on the progressive path. So we can see that various questions that were asked, all of them were nicely answered, and then this devotional service to the Lord uh, is the ultimate solution for everything. So first is that the Lord is beyond material modes of nature, and then like how can he come under the modes of nature, or when he comes into this world and he is performing his activities, is he coming as one who is controlled by the modes of nature? No, he's not controlled by the modes of nature. He is completely free from, no, he is the master of the modes of nature. So that was very nicely put in the reading group, some of the students had put. And then the this one, the Lord's why does the Lord desire? So the Lord desire for the welfare of the living entities, and the Lord, as in some places Prabhupada was mentioning that just like a parent puts the child in the school or a tuition just to teach the children, so in the same way, like the Lord wants the living entities to be rectified, and then the living entities are part and parcel of the Lord, and he doesn't want them to suffer in this material world, right? So that is one reason. Another reason is, so the Lord is completely fully satisfied, but still he wants to expand his activities of Leela. So that is how this word Leela comes into existence. So we cannot call our activities as Leela. No, we are completely pushed by the material nature. So anything that is beyond the material modes of nature, they can be called as Leela, right? So the Lord is not pushed by any of the material this ones. So he doesn't have any material desires. No, he doesn't have any material desires, and his desires are purely spiritual, and that is why his activities are called as the Leela, or the pastimes of the Lord, right? So that is one aspect. And then we saw about the aspect of living entity is like suffering in the material world. So that is like the moon, and the reflection of the moon is given, so where the reflection appears to be shaking, but actually it is not shaking. No, and the other examples were given, like the head being beheaded, so head being cut off, and we seeing our head being cut off. So how can we see if our head is cut off? So if we are able to see, that means we are not, our head is not cut off. No, we in the same way, the living entity appears to be suffering in the material world, but the pure soul cannot be put under suffering. No, and the pure soul is he just need to wake up to Krishna consciousness. So in a dream, he can see something and he can be horrified, but then if he wakes up, all his fear is gone, which is produced by the dream. So in the same way, the material existence is like a dream like state, and if we wake up to Krishna consciousness, so then immediately, like all this misery will be set aside. And then the Lord is there right next to the living entity, still the misery is happening. It's because the Lord is just Upadrishta and Anumanta, and no, he just wants the, like, he's not controlling the living entity. He has given that freedom of choice to the living entity, and that is also an aspect of the love of the Lord. So he doesn't want to snatch that back, and in that way, like, he actually renders, allows the living entities to function, in the way they want. And for their benefit, he sends the devotees of the Lord, and they come and preach the message of Krishna consciousness, and by their devotion, the devotion arises in our heart, right? So in that way, like, the bhakti is spread. Okay, so we'll go to text 16. साद्वैतद् व्याहृतं विद्वन्नात्म माया नात्ममायायनं हरेः अबाध्याप् अपार्थं निर्मूलं विश्वमूलं न यद्बहिः. O learned sage, your explanations are very good, as they should be. Disturbance to the conditioned soul have no other basis than the movement of the external energy of the Lord. So it's very nicely put that how the living entity gets disturbed, it's because of the movements of the material nature, right? So that is what is causing the disturbance. Purport. A living entity's unlawful desires to become one with the Lord in every respect is the root cause of entire material manifestation. For otherwise, the Lord has no need to create such a manifestation, even for his pastimes. See, the conditioned soul, under the spell of external energy of the Lord, falsely suffers many unfortunate incidents in material life. The Lord is the predominator of external energy Maya, whereas the living entity is predominated by the same Maya under the material condition. The false attempt of the living entity to occupy the predominating post of the Lord is the cause of his material bondage, and the conditioned soul's attempt to become one with the Lord is the last snare of Maya. So we are suffering because of Lord's external energy. But then why did we at all come into Lord's external energy? It is because we have the desire to become the Lord. No, that's the main problem. That is why we are under the external energy. Okay, text 17. यश्च मूदात्मनो लोके यश्च बुद्धेः परं गतः तावुभौ शुकं येदे ते क्लिश्यतन्तरितो जनः. Both the lowest of the fools and he who is transcendental to all intelligence enjoy happiness, whereas persons between them suffer the material pangs. So, like, the most foolish person, no, he is always blissful. He also suffers, but then he can experience some bliss also, like, because he doesn't have any cares and concerns of this world, so he's not pushed and pulled by the material things. No, he's bindas in his life. And then the transcendentalist who knows everything, no, he also is in happiness. No, others are suffering a lot of material pangs, no. Okay, purport. The lowest of fools do not understand material miseries. They pass their lives merrily and do not inquire into the miseries of life. Such persons are almost on the level of animals who, although in the eyes of the superiors are always miserable in life, are unaware of material distress. No, they are miserable, but then they are not able to understand they are miserable. So that's such miserable they are. A hog's life is degraded in the standard of happiness. Hog means pig, no, which entails living in a filthy place, engaging in the sex enjoyment at every opportune moment, and laboring hard in the struggle for existence. But this is unknown to the hog. Similarly, human beings who are unaware of the miseries of material existence are happy in sex life and hard labor are the lowest of the fools. Yet, because they have no sense of miseries, they supposedly enjoy so called happiness. The other class of men, those who are liberated and are situated on the transcendental position above intelligence, are really happy and are called Paramahamsas. But persons who are neither like hogs and dogs nor on the level of Paramahamsas feel material pangs, and for them inquiries about supreme truth is necessary. The Vedanta Sutra states, Atato Brahma Jignasa, now one should inquire about Brahman. This inquiry is necessary for those who are between the Paramahamsas and the fools who have forgotten the question of self realization in the midst of life and sense gratification. So, like, we see that, this is the perfection, that, we are those people. We are neither Paramahamsas, we are neither fools. Like, we don't, like, we want to progress towards Krishna consciousness, and we are going through some pushes and pulls and things like that, and we'll have to take the guidance of the scriptures and the devotees of the Lord and progress nicely in Krishna consciousness. So the material world will continue to be miserable. So either we can go to such lowest stage where so much of misery is there that I cannot even sense know how much misery is there, or we can go to the another extreme, that is, no, I'm completely above all the miserable conditions, that is Paramahamsa. So in between, the normal class of people all will face the music of the material world, all will have miserable conditions in life because it is dukkalayam, and miseries have to be there. No, if if we are not having any miseries, that means either we are in one of the extremes, no, or temporary, it is just temporary, it will just go off. So that's the condition. Okay, text 18. अर्थाभावं विनिश्चित्य प्रतीतस्यापि नात्मनः तां चापि युष्मच्चरण सेवयाहं परानुदे. But my dear sir, I am obliged to you because now I can understand that this material manifestation is without substance, although it appears real. I am confident that by serving your feet, it will be possible for me to give up the false idea. Purport: the suffering of the conditioned soul are superficial and have no intrinsic value, like the cutting off of one's head in a dream. Yet, although this statement is theoretically very true, it is very difficult for the common man or the neophyte on the transcendental path to realize practically. However, by serving the feet of great transcendentalists like Maitreya Muni and by constant association with them, one is enabled to give up the false idea. Thus, the soul suffers false idea that the soul suffers from material pangs. So, it is soul suffering from material pangs is a false idea. The soul is, of course, the soul is the experiencer of the things, but then the soul in itself, it is only, it's as we have seen that example, it's a very, very nice example, that the moon reflected in the water, what actually shakes is the water, and the moon is not shaking, or the reflection of the moon also cannot be shaking. So Prabhupada nicely puts it, if the object, the source object is unshakable, so then how can the reflection be shakable? So the reflection is also not shaking. It is only the medium that is shaking, right? So in the same way, we are not going through suffering. It is only the medium of material existence that is going through, that is actually going through all this what is it, ripples, no, is formed in the material existence, and the matter is going through the ripples, and we are identifying, oh, I am going through the ripple, and I am actually getting into tension, but actually I cannot be put into any miserable condition. So I am completely away from the spirit. Soul is spirit, and it cannot be affected by the matter, right? So this false idea can be thrown off by serving the lotus feet of great personalities like Maitreya Muni and by constant association with them. So this is what Prahlad Maharaj also says when his father asks, like, how did you understand all these things? No, who taught you and things like that. So then he says that Mahi Yasham Pada Rajobhishekam Nishkinchananam Vinitayavat. So he says that one has to take the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, or one has to serve the lotus feet of the Lord, with all earnestness, or the devotees of the Lord, right? So he is Nishkinchananam. Nishkinchana means like one who has got no other attachment other than Krishna, right? So Nishkinchana, Nishkinchananam Vinitayavat. So this is a very, very important aspect. Until unless we serve a pure devotee of the Lord, we will not be able to gain a lot of clarity in Krishna consciousness. So we will not be able to gain that dridata in Krishna consciousness. It's very, very important to serve the lotus feet of a great personality. Okay, text 19. Okay, we have the opportunity to serve Srila Prabhupada. So Prabhupada likes book distribution. If we can distribute the books of Srila Prabhupada, he'll be very, very happy. So next month we have the book marathon, and if we distribute a lot of Gitas and Srila Prabhupada's books, so we will get the mercy of Srila Prabhupada immensely. And then preaching the message of Krishna consciousness, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted all the acharyas in the line of pure devotees, they wanted, and then Srila Prabhupada wanted, this message to be broadcasted. So if we can assist in the process of preaching, that is also considered to be the serving the lotus feet of a great personality. And so many ample opportunities are there, so we can actually serve the lotus feet of great personalities, and then we can get the opportunity to become purified, and then we'll be able to get freed from all the material pangs and material miseries. Text 19. यत्सेवया भगवतः कूटस्थस्य मधुद्विषः रतिरासो भवेत् तीव्रः पादयोर्व्यसनार्दनः. By serving the lotus feet of the spiritual master, one is enabled to develop transcendental ecstasy in the service of the personality of Godhead, who is the unchangeable enemy of Madhudvisha, Madhudvisha. So Madhu demon, and whose service vanquishes one's material desires, distresses. Okay. So by service to the spiritual master, one becomes qualified to render service to the Supreme Lord. In fact, actually, there is no difference between the service to the spiritual master and service to the Supreme Lord. So it is one and the same. And a person develops that kind of an intense devotion. And here it's also mentioned that tivrataha, tivraha, highly ecstatic, So like it is very intense devotional service is required, for us to advance in this way. Purport: the association of a bona fide spiritual master like the sage Maitreya can be of absolute help in achieving transcendental attachment for the direct service of the Lord. The Lord is the enemy of Madhu demon, or in other words, he is the enemy of all of the suffering of his pure devotees. So the sufferings of the living entity is compared to a demon, and then the Lord will destroy this demon, and a devotee will become fully happy. The word Rati Rasaha is significant in this verse. Service to the Lord is rendered in different transcendental mellows or relationships, that is neutral, active, friendship, parental, and conjugal. So that is Shanta Rasa, Dasya Rasa, Sakya Rasa, Vatsalya Rasa, and then Madhurya Rasa. A living entity in the liberated position of transcendental service to become the Lord, sorry, a living entity in the liberated position of transcendental service to the Lord becomes attracted to one of the above mentioned mellows. And when one is engaged in transcendental service to the Lord, one's service attachment in the material world is automatically vanquished. As mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, Rasavarjam Rasopi Asya Param Drishtva Nivartate. Right, so we were studying this thing in the Bhagavad Gita. So that is where, like, we were discussing about the Ambrish Maharaj Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayo. So that very thing that is there here. Okay, so here we see that this like a devotee getting attracted to one of these rasas, this is also not an ordinary thing. This is only this clarity a person gets, a devotee gets only at the level of bhava and prema. So before that, one cannot even identify what kind of relationship that a person has with the Supreme Lord. So it is very difficult to means not difficult, it's not possible. So in a higher stages of devotional service, we will naturally get attraction to one of these 5 different varieties of service to the Lord. It's not an initial this one. Okay, text 20. Durapa hi alpa tapasaha seva vaikunta vartmasu yo yatropa giyathe nityam deva devo janardanaha. Persons whose austerity is meager can hardly obtain the service of the pure devotees who are progressing on the path back to the kingdom of Godhead, the Vaikunthas. Pure devotees engage 100% in glorifying the Supreme Lord, who is the Lord of the demigods and the controller of all living entities. So here we see that we offer this prayer before honoring Prasadam. So that is Mahaprasade Govinde Nama Brahmani Vaishnave Swalpa Punyavatam Rajan Vishwasanaiva Jayate. So that means Mahaprasad. So that's the Mahaprasad of the Lord. Govinde, that is the the Supreme Lord Govinda. Nama Brahmani, that means the holy name of the Lord. So just like Dravya Brahma means the Lord in the form of liquid, that is Ganges. And then like we have Para Brahman, Dravya Brahman, no, like so different kinds of this. And Shabda Brahman, no, that is the sound vibration of the Vedic scriptures is called Shabda Brahma. So here we see that Nama Brahmani, so that is the holy name of the Lord, and Vaishnave, the devotees of the Lord. So that is these four entities. Like what about these four entities? Mahaprasade, Govinde, Nama Brahmani, and Vaishnave. Swalpa Punyavatam Rajan, one who has got very less punya, alpa punya or swalpa punya. So Vishwasanaiva Jayate. No, they cannot put faith on these four entities. No, Mahaprasad, the Supreme Lord, then the holy name of the Lord, and the devotees of the Lord. So here, that's why it is mentioned, the persons whose austerity is meager can hardly obtain the service of the pure devotees who are progressing on the path back to Godhead, back to the kingdom of Godhead, the Vaikunthas. So, like Swalpa Punya Vatam Rajan Vishwasanaiva Jayate. So, if the punya is very less, so then they cannot make much progress. You know, they have to have immense punya. So, they need to have a lot of punya. That is why it is mentioned, Eshanto Antagatam Papam Jananam Punya Karmanam. So by again and again performing devotional service, again and again performing chanting, again and again hearing the glories of the Lord, so and studying the scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam, so one has to do these things, and then with this intensity of practice, so a person has to attract the mercy of the Lord. And then Vidunoti Suhrit Satam, so the Lord situated in the heart, he cleanses the heart of all the anarthas by seeing our sincere desire to render service to him. And once this thing is like, once the sincere desire is there to render service, and then once the Lord cleanses the heart, then comes the attraction. No, then comes the attraction. And no, when we do such things, then a person gets the association of pure devotees. No, so like constant association of pure devotees. So otherwise it is not possible to get such kind of a benefit. Okay, so the pure devotees engage 100% in glorifying the Supreme Lord, who is the Lord of the demigods and the controller of all living entities. Okay, so there is a question. Can you please explain Panchayat Tantra Tattvam? I don't know what is it. Where have you read this? Pushpa Mataji? You may unmute and speak also.
Panchatattva mantra.
Oh, Panchatattva mantra.
Yeah, absolutely.
Panchatattva mantra, okay.
Because we used to chant, no, before starting the chanting and all these things, we used to chant the Panchatattva mantra. Okay. That's what I must.
Okay, after finishing this purport, I'll just tell about that.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
So purport, the path of liberation as recommended by all authorities is to serve the Mahatma transcendentalists. As far as Bhagavad Gita is concerned, the Mahatmas, as far as Bhagavad Gita is concerned, the Mahatmas are the pure devotees who are on the path to Vaikuntha, the kingdom of God, and who always chant and hear the glories of the Lord rather than talk of dry, profitless philosophy. So, like in the Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned, Vasudevaha Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabhaha. So, a person like Mahatma, the definition of Mahatma is given. A Mahatma is a person who is constantly engaged in devotional service, who is able to perceive the Lord at every step and every aspect of the creation, and he is constantly glorifying the Lord. No, so that is the position of the Mahatmas. So they don't engage in dry, profitless philosophy. So this system of association has been recommended since time immemorial, but in this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, it is essentially recommended by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that is the discussion of the glories of the Lord and chanting the names of the Lord is specifically mentioned or recommended by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Right? So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, like is the Supreme Lord himself in the form of a devotee. So the Lord comes to teach all the devotees know how to perform devotion by his personal example. And then when he comes, he doesn't come alone. No, he comes with his associates. Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam Sango Pangastra Parshadam Yajnay Sankirtane Praya Rajanti Hi Sumedasaha. So like Krishna Varnam, so he is belonging to the same category of Krishna. So this is a sloka from Srimad Bhagavatam 11th Canto, so which describes the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Bhagavatam was written 5,000 years before, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared just 500 years before, right? So, Bhagavatam predicts this thing, appearance of Lord Chaitanya. So, Krishna Varnam, so he belongs to the same category as Krishna, Tusha Krishnam, so he doesn't have a bodily complexion, as Krishna also means blackish. So, he doesn't belong, he doesn't have a bodily complexion like a black complexion. He's Krishna, but then he doesn't have a blackish complexion. Tusha Krishnam, Sangopangastra Parshadam. So he comes with his associates and his near and dear ones. And then what will he do? Yajnai Sankirtana Prayer. So he will start this Sankirtan Yajna. No, Yajna Sankirtana Prayer. Yajantihi Sumedasaha. So, like most intelligent people of this Kali Yuga will follow this process of Krishna consciousness, will follow the Sankirtan Yajna. Right? So that is the this prediction of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes with his associates. So that is Advaita Acharya, Nityananda Prabhu, then Gadadhar Prabhu, and then Srivas Prabhu. So all of them are very, very confidential associates of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it is mentioned that by chanting these personalities' names, so our offenses towards the holy name is forgiven, and we can make tremendous progress. If you don't chant this Panchatattva mantra, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda, so directly if we approach Krishna and Krishna's name, then there is so much of rules and regulations, and there is so much of caution that is there to approach Krishna. But by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so we are able to access Krishna's names and get the benefit of it, and then still not punished for our offenses, right? So that's the amazing aspect of this Panchatattva mantra. So all of us should chant the Panchatattva mantra before chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. So at least once we should chant the Panchatattva mantra, and then we should start chanting the Hare Krishna mantra 108 times. And after every 108, we can chant the Panchatattva mantra again, and then we can chant further another. So every round we can start with Panchatattva mantra. So that's why we do that thing. And it's because of the intense mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we are able to make progress in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, Kali Yuga being so disturbed in mind and so like we cannot think of even progressing in Krishna consciousness. So what the previous ages, what people with great sense control and people with great capacities could do, in this Kali Yuga, we are like such a disturbed people. Like we are also like able to do. It's only because of the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and otherwise it is not possible so easily. Okay, so even if one has no assets of favorable austerity, if he nevertheless takes shelter of the Mahatmas who are engaged in chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord, he is sure to make progress on the path back home, back to Godhead. So it's nicely mentioned. So if we find ourselves to be very, very pathetic, very completely unfit to perform devotional service, still if we take shelter of the Mahatmas, who are fully engaged in the chanting and hearing of the glories of the Lord, so then we are sure to make progress in the path back home, back to Godhead. And this we could see in the pastimes of Srila Prabhupada, so that he picked up people who are addicted to drugs, who were completely in a very, very downtrodden state, and who didn't have even a glimpse of the Vedic culture. So like he was, he picked up all of them, and then he just engaged them in whatever service they could do, and they came out to be like amazing Vaishnavas. They came out to be like super amazing devotees of the Lord. And this is really wonderful. And this practicality, like it is not just Prabhupada is writing this statements here. He has practically demonstrated this. How like even people of completely different culture and people who break all the regulative principles, they don't have any discrimination of non-vegetarian or any sinning and things like that. It's many of the sins that we consider things to be sin is quite okay in the foreign countries. Killing a cow is okay, in the foreign countries. And such, deeply sinful people, they could able to become nice, amazing Vaishnavas, and who are picked up from the streets, who are loitering in the streets, and they could become amazing Vaishnavas. That's really amazing. So that's the power of a Mahatma. That's the power of a person who is fully and solidly fixed up in the process of chanting the names of the Lord and glorifying the Lord. Now, if we see Srila Prabhupada, so in his preaching was from his age of 70 to um, 81, 82, like that. So it is only 12 years, 11 to 12 years of preaching. And in that, he has spoken so many lectures, thousands and thousands of hours of lectures is there, and so many pages of books. Like just by seeing Bhagavatam, first time somebody, if he sees the Bhagavatam, he'll get no chakkar, he'll get like he'll faint. And so many pages just to read, we are fainting. But we can imagine, like Prabhupada has written all these things, and how many years? Just in 11 years, everything. And he traveled all around the world. He trained the disciples. He built temples. He managed the organization. It's like unimaginable, right? So this is only possible by a great Mahatma. It is, otherwise it is not possible. Like we cannot even imagine of doing anything like that. Even a fraction of it, we cannot do it. So that is how great this personality Srila Prabhupada is. And if we can serve in some way, to Srila Prabhupada, and we will get immense mercy. We will get immense mercy, and we will be able to make solid progress in Krishna consciousness, right? So we will stop here. Happy Diwali for all the devotees, and hope you will have nice celebrations and things like that back at home. So tomorrow we have a special session in the morning on actually the Damodar Leela happened on the day of Diwali. So tomorrow we have this Damodar Leela narration at morning 8:30 by a special speaker, Yugal Kishore Prabhu. So you can you all can join. I'll be sending the message out in some time, right? So thank you all very much for joining.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thanks a lot.
Hari Hari, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Hare Krishna.